Hello everyone and welcome to 4KB Shorts Let's Learn with Kerbal Space Program, A.R.M update. Now the A.R.M update is an acronym, A.R.M. It stands for Asteroid Redirect Mission, and it was made in conjunction with NASA. NASA and Squad got together and NASA said, hey, we'd like you to make an update or an expansion for your game that allows people to move asteroids around, and Squad of course naturally said yes. Now for a lot of people this makes the game version 0.23.5. Personally, I consider it an expansion like DLC, but since you don't have to pay for it, it's like free DLC. So it's not 0.24, which is confusing a lot of people. It's 0.23.5 or the A.R.M expansion pack. Now I will be calling it the A.R.M expansion pack just because it's easier to say, and it's how I've been referring to it ever since the beginning. Now the reason why we're on the main screen here rather than inside the VAP or any place like that is because before we start anything else, there's a very important setting that has been added to the game for the A.R.M update that is something that you will have to check before you get into your game. Otherwise it can cause some massive confusion when it comes to your burns and any other kind of timekeeping later on in the game. So let's go ahead and go into the settings area. Now here inside the settings area, as you can see under General tab, you have displaying Earth time, 24-hour days, 356-day years. This is the standard time that has been in Kerbin since the beginning. This is the standard time. If you've ever played Kerbal Space Program before, this is the time frame you will have been used to, 24-hour days. So every day that passes takes 24 hours. So if you've been tracking a burn, you're like, okay, 24, 23, 22, down to 1, and then, you know, it flips over to the next day. Well, when you open up the game for the first time, this is checked. This is not unchecked. This is checked. And I've unchecked it because if you check it, displaying Kerbin time, 6-hour days, 426-day years. What that means is when it shows the little timer down in the corner and the one up in, like a burn timer down below your nav ball and the timer up in the corner for how long your ship has been out there, this is the time scale it's going to be using. 6-hour days, 426-day years, which means when it says you have 6 hours till your next burn, it will go 6, or say you have 2 days before your next burn, it'll go 2 days, 3 hours. 3, 2, 1, 1 day, 5 hours. 4, 3, 2, 1, 6 hours. 3, 2, so on and so forth. It counts up to 6 before it rolls over a day rather than up to 24. If you're not paying attention and you're expecting, in your head you're expecting 24-hour days and you see 6 hours, you would think to yourself, okay, that's fine, I'll go, or, you know, I have 3 days, okay, that means I have, you know, 72 or 48 or how many ever hours, right? And it'll go 6, and it'll flip over a day, 6, flip over a day, and then you'll miss your burn. You'll be like, whoa, what happened to all those hours I was expecting? They're gone because, of course, this 6 hours is displayed differently. So if you like the 24-hour days, if you don't really want Kerbal real time, you can come in here and you just turn that off, and now you have Earth time, 24-hour days, 356 days years, and that's what you're used to. If you like the idea of Kerbal time, keep that checked, but just remember to check your burn times. 6 hours is a day, not just part of a day. So it's very important. So I wanted to show that before we get started, because that is something that we do here on the Let's Learn. So we are going to stick to 24-hour days just for the purposes of this, and let's go ahead and get inside, and we'll start showing off how to capture asteroids and redirect them and do all sorts of other stuff. Awesome stuff. So I'll see you guys inside the, well, I'll see you guys at the tracking station. Yeah, I'll see you guys at the tracking station, so I'll see you there. Alright everybody, here we are inside the VAB. Now I want to show off a few items around here that have been changed, that are a little bit different than what we normally would see. And the first thing is, if we take a look up at the top left hand corner at our buttons, we have 2 extra items. Space objects and unknowns. Now, as you can see, unknown is populated by a couple of objects, everything else is blank because we don't have anything else in space right now. Now up here you're going to see some arrows. Now these are the same arrows that you see outside. These arrows are the timescale arrows. And timescale arrows inside the tracking station are now available. So if we fast forward time, like so, we can now fast forward time inside the tracking station without having to go to a separate ship. Really wonderful. It's nice that they finally added that in. And so if you ever have a ship out there that you need to wait until you can get with a phase angle, or you just want to spend time around until something's in the right position, that kind of thing, you can now do so inside the tracking station without ever having to launch a fake ship or go to another ship or go to something that's on the ground or something that's way out in orbit. You can now do it from right here in the tracking station without having to worry. Now that we fast forward time, however, some things may have changed. And the reason things may have changed is if we back up, we can see these. We have dots in the sky, unknown objects. That's what these are, right? Yes, unknown objects. Now if we take a look and we mouse over some of these unknown objects, unknown object last seen 2 days, 20 hours, 40 minutes ago. Size class C, medium. Now if we click on it, Class C objects are about average size, around 7 to 10 meter range and radius. These are certainly not the largest objects out there, they are fairly massive nonetheless. So if we take a look and we just click on a few of them, we have another medium, 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 tiny. Okay, so finally we have a slightly different one, we have a tiny one. Class A objects are the smallest objects we are able to spot. They usually measure no more than a few meters across. Now A is tiny, B is small, C is medium, D I believe is large, and then there's E, which is huge. Now huge ones, unfortunately we don't have one here to reference, but huge ones are upwards of 18 meters across and can weigh several thousand tons, or not tons, several thousand tons. I think it's anyway, it can weigh a lot and become very hard to move around. Now, I know that a lot of people will come into the tracking station, see these unknown objects, and go, "Oh my, I have to go out and get one. I have to go out and fly to it," and you will try to do that, and you will fail. And the reason why is because these unknown objects do not exist. They are not real objects. They are only mathematical equations located inside the tracking station, and the reason for that is because it keeps the game from getting cluttered with garbage. Now, if we were to fast forward time again, which we're not going to, but if we were to fast forward time again, you'd see these asteroids fly across Kerbin's SOI, or fly across Kerbin's area. And then as they flew out the other side, they'd vanish, and then new ones would come in and take their place. And this cycle would happen continuously, over and over and over again. And the reason why is because these asteroids are there for you to select and to go out and get, but are not a requirement. Now there's two things that I want to show you with regards to that. One is if you're like, well, I don't like the A.R.M system. I tried it, I don't like it, I don't want to touch it, I don't like asteroids, I don't like them cluttering up my tracking stations, they're terrible, they're horrible, I don't even want to be part of it, get rid of them. The easiest way to do that is to go right up here and just uncheck that. Boom, done. And you can just leave that unchecked forever, and you never have to worry about another asteroid. You can play the game, use all the new parts, use all the stuff you want to use, but you never ever ever have to see another asteroid or potential asteroid in your tracking station again. Keeps the game from getting cluttered. Really, 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 really nice. But for this particular Let's Learn, we do want our asteroids to be seen. So let's go ahead and load those back up. Now, for this, we're going to go with the tiny one. We only have one tiny one, but we're going to go with the tiny one because that's the easiest one to intercept. Well, let me put it this way. It's the easiest one to move, but the hardest one to intercept. So each class has its own problems. As you go up in size, i.e. it's easier to see, it becomes a lot harder to move. And then as you go down in size, it becomes harder to intercept, harder to see and find, but easier to move. So it's sort of a balancing issue. Of course, C size, medium ones are right in the middle and are pretty good practice. But we're going to go with an A size because I like the idea of moving tiny ones. I've had a little bit of practice, and I want to show off some things to you guys that you can do with tiny asteroids. Now, because of that, we have to make this asteroid real. Again, right now the asteroids are just mathematical equations in the tracking station. But if we take a look down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have this, track object. Now, normally this would be the recover ship or the recover vessel button, but it's turned into track object. Now, if we check this, boom. Now our asteroid has become substantial, it has become real. It has a trajectory, it has an intercept with Kerbin, it is now a physical object that exists in the game, and we can go out and intercept it. For anywhere in the solar system, as long as we're tracking it, it will continue to exist, whether it's in Kerbals SOI, whether it's about to intercept Kerbin, whether it's not, doesn't matter, it exists in the universe, and we can go out and capture it and touch it and move it around and do whatever we want with it. It also now has a name, AST-KFL 438. It has a very high signal strength. It was discovered 2 days, 20 hours ago. It is currently orbiting the sun, and it's just it's just size class A. And that's about it. But the point is now that it is a physical object, if we were to turn off our unknowns, we now have an asteroid, a real-life asteroid. So we have space objects. Boom, we can turn that one off and turn it back on, so on and so forth. So this is how you discover them. If you do not discover the asteroid, it does not really exist. This is a key component in the A.R.M system. If you try to just launch out and intercept one of those question marks, it will just vanish. You will never see it, because you could be right on top of it, exact XYZ coordinates in space, and it's not really there. And so for that reason, you do have to track them. I'm kind of reiterating that a little bit much, but you do have to track them. And once it's tracked, then you can plan your mission. So, let's go ahead and go plan our mission, well, in the VAB, I suppose you can say. So I'll see you guys in the VAB. Alright everybody, here we are in the VAB. Now before we get too deep into the new parts, because there are new parts, there is one specific new part that I wish to show you, and that is this. The Advanced Grabbing Unit. Kerbal motion engineers have long struggled with the problem of how to extract dropped tools from complicated machinery. After observing an intern cleaning out his shoes by turning them upside down and shaking them inside the lab, our team was hit by a stroke of inspiration. Why not turn the rocket parts upside down and shake them? The grabbing arm perfectly filled this niche and is quite capable of lifting heavy machinery. It has since found other uses besides delicate tool extracting operations, aka the claw, so we will call it the claw. Now the claw is very important because it was designed specifically to attach to asteroids, and the reason for that is because asteroids are not rocks, they are not planets, they do not have an SOI, and they do not have gravity. For the purposes of the game, they are considered ships, ship parts, or ship debris. And so, since they don't come equipped with their own docking port, there needs to be a way to attach your ship to that ship, and that's where the claw comes in. Now, I can't show it opened at this time, but we will get into that once we get towards docking with our asteroid. But basically, you can think of the claw as one half of a docking system that does not require the other half of the docking system, which means you can attach it to fuel tanks, you can attach it to space debris, you can attach it to asteroids. So say, for instance, you take a ship up, you have an orange fuel tank on it because you had a huge launching system. That orange fuel tank still has a ton of fuel in it, but you can't use it, so you dump it. Boom, gone. Now it's floating out there as space debris. Now you have another ship that has a claw on it, but it's out of fuel. Maybe has a little bit of RCS left in it, and you can maneuver it towards this gigantic orange tank. And so you can maneuver it over there, boom, attach the claw to it, suck all the fuel out of it, and then now you have fuel in your ship. So it can be considered a universal docking port, and that's what it is. Now, another item, another thing that they've added to the game, and we're going to show this via, I think the command pod will show it, is if you look, we now have Kerbal on everything. Kerbal here, Kerbal here. Now those aren't there because they're there because that's our flag. That is our flag. Our flag is Kerbal Space Program. But what you can do is you can right-click on these objects, toggle flag. So you can turn the flag off. If you don't like the idea of the flag being on everything, you can toggle it off. It's default to on, but you can toggle it off. If you do like the idea of the flag being on everything, there you go. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, along with that, we have a ton of new rocket parts. Now, these rocket parts are huge. They are not standard size rocket parts. They were not built for the idea of taking Kerbals into space. They were built for the purpose of bringing asteroids back to Kerbin. So as you can see, we have some okay, it's not going to let me do that. We have some very large 3-meter parts. These are huge. These are ginormous. Now, as far as I'm aware, in this early release, they're still unbalanced, very unbalanced. They're very overpowered. Even for their size, they're very overpowered. But as you can see, they come in very large sizes, and so you can use these. You can use these as launch stages. You can use them for whatever you want. You can use them to intercept asteroids, but they are very large. We do have converters here, which I do believe are under structural. Yes, so we do have converters here. We have I believe it's 2.5 to 3.0 meter part converter, and then we have some decouplers here, so I believe this is a decoupler for the 3-meter parts, so on and so forth. So we do have all the parts. Now, I'm not going to go through and make a rocket based on these parts. I don't believe we need to. I'm going to be using stock parts for our particular purposes because the intercept ship that we have to build is going to be very tiny indeed. And so for that reason, we're not going to be using these parts in the Let's Learn, but I do say experiment with them because they do have lots of new parts, including new SRBs, so really nice stuff. Now, if I remember correctly, 2 engines got a boost, and one of those is the PB ion electric propulsion system, the ion engine. Now it has a max thrust of 2.0. A lot higher than it used to be, and the reason for that is because you can move some asteroids with ion engines now. Yeah, you can move some asteroids with ion engines now. There's another engine that got an upgrade, and I don't know which one it was, unfortunately, so I can't state which one it is, but I do know for a fact that the ion engine did get a max thrust boost, which is great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a very small probe ship. Now this probe ship is going to demonstrate a few things about asteroids that I think it's very important for everybody to know. But it's not going to be manned, so we're not going to be taking a Kerbal with us, which is fine. Now I'm going to do that off camera, and from here I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to intercept with an asteroid, but since I have not had a lot of practice with it, I may have to do so off camera, as I may miss a few times. It's very difficult, but I will show you how you're supposed to do it, and then I will show you what happens when you do it. So I won't be able to do it on camera because I'm not very good at it, but I will show you how, like, the steps, what you're supposed to do, and then you can of course practice on your own. So I will see you guys most likely out in space because that's where we're going to need to do all this stuff. So I'll see you guys there. Alrighty everybody, here we are in space. Now we are on the map screen for a very specific reason, and I'm not showing you the ship for a very specific reason, which I will talk about later. Now, what I have done to prepare us is I have selected the ship in question, or the asteroid in question. So as you can see, our asteroid KFL 438 is right there. And by selecting it as our target, it not only shows us its current trajectory, it shows us its intercept trajectory with Kerbin. This is where it's going to intercept Kerbin's SOI, this blue line. This light blue line, not this blue line. And this light blue line, periapsis, Kerbin periapsis is going to be 49 million meters away, very far away, as a matter of fact. Probably not the best asteroid to grab, but it's light, and we're going to go ahead and grab it anyway. Now, the periapsis will be in 16 days, 12 hours, 43 minutes. That tells us exactly how long it's going to take for that asteroid to reach that point. Now, it'll also tell us when it leaves the SOI, 17 days. So it'll be in Kerbin's SOI for about 1 day. We also have an ascending node. Now, of course, for anybody who's ever intercepted anything like the moon or something like that, you know that ascending and descending node is the point at which your orbit will be level with its orbit, which is only at one point right here. Now, normally what you'd want to do is you'd want to select your target, like so. You'd select your target, and then you'd want to launch at such an angle as to where you would be most likely to be at its ascending node, descending node, so you never have to worry about adjusting your orbit. But for the purposes of the Let's Play and to show off a couple of things, I launched in a very inefficient flat equatorial orbit. So let's go ahead and click on our ascending node here, because that's the place where you want to adjust your tilt. You always want to adjust your tilt to match the orbit of another object at the ascending or descending node, and since we only have an ascending node, that's where we're going to do it at. Now in 1 hour, 23 minutes, 15 seconds, we all know about this, add a maneuver. Now you can see the maneuver node here, it looks normal. It looks normal, except that if we click away from it, and I believe if we click it again, no, I'm sorry, right click. If you right click, now to close a node, you right click and you hit X, right? So that's how you close a node. Well, you also have these. What are these buttons? I do not know what these buttons are. These buttons are plus and minus orbits. What that means is normally when you put down a maneuver node, not an ascending node, a maneuver node, it assumes you want it as soon as your ship comes around. So like our ship is here, and it is currently assuming that we want to burn as soon as our ship reaches here, which makes sense. But say for instance, you are waiting for, I don't know, 16 days for a ship to get to you. Maybe or for an asteroid to get to you. Maybe you're waiting for your phase angle to be perfect, and that's going to be in 7 orbits. So what you can do is you can hit orbit plus, boink, and then you have to, every time you click it, you have to move away and move to it again. That can be fixed, but as you can see, every time we click it, 7 hours, 6 minutes, 45 seconds, we click plus again, 9 hours, 1 minute, 32 seconds, click again, 10 hours, so on and so forth. So what it's doing is it's adding an orbit. So instead of being in 14 minutes, however minutes it was, it's now in 10 hours. It's now in several orbits. So you can keep one maneuver node without having to delete it and then wait 7 orbits and then try it again and wait 7 orbits and try it again. And what's great about this is this will show you your intercept at the time of the burn, not at your current time. Meaning that if you want to set down a node, and I'll probably demonstrate this a little bit later, but I'll explain it to you now in case I don't. If you want to set down a maneuver node and then say, well, where will I be in 3 orbits? Orbit, orbit, orbit. Okay, so we're this far away from our target. How about 2 more orbits? And you add 2 more orbits, and it's like, okay, now we're exactly on where we wanted to be. So instead of saying, let's do an orbit, or let's do a maneuver node, and that's not right, or let's wait 3 orbits, then hope, and then do another maneuver node, and oh, we overshot it, let's reload, try it again. You can just do that by using these little buttons right here to plus and minus orbits on your maneuver node. As an addition, you also have the ability outside the map screen. I'm not going to click outside the map screen because, again, I'm hiding our spaceship for now. If you look right here, inside and outside the map screen, you have this little X button, and this is a cancellation button. Boink. You can delete the node right there from your maneuver node. You never have to look at the map screen. So if you're burning around and you finish a burn and your burn's over and you're done and you want to get rid of your maneuver node, you no longer have to go to the map screen. You just hit that little X button right there, boink, and it disappears. Perfect, perfect, perfect. But since we don't need to do that, what we do need to do is we need to do a maneuver. Let's go ahead and maneuver our way up. And so what we want to do is we just want to tilt or orbit until that happens. It won't be perfect. Oh, there's our descending node. Okay. So yes, it won't be perfect. It's a little bit different than going after a planet because, as you can see, you want your ascending and descending node to be missing. You don't want it to exist. Unlike when you're doing a planet, you want them to turn halfway and be at 0 by 0. Well, since you're only going to see the asteroid for half of its orbit, you don't want an ascending descending node. You want it to be blank. You want there to be no ascending descending node. That means you're at 0 by 0. Now for this burn, I'm going to go ahead and do this burn off camera because of course there's nothing special about this burn. It's just a normal burn to burn into the correct angle. And then from there, again, I believe I'll show you guys how to do the plus minus to get into a stable orbit, or to get your orbit your orbital maneuver to be correct, as in to be into such a position, as I said before, so where you can plus and minus it according to orbit. So I'll probably show that to you. If it doesn't work very well, or if it doesn't show up on the video, please know that the explanation should be good enough. But I will see you guys after this burn, most likely in roughly not 16 days. You know, the sooner you intercept an asteroid, the better, but not in 16 days. But as soon as the asteroid gets close enough for us to intercept it, I will see you guys there. Alright everybody, here we are, and as you can see, the asteroid is on its way through Kerbals SOI, and we have a very circularized, very wide orbit. Now the reason for that is this is just an example. This is an example of the type of orbit that you'd want in order to intercept an asteroid. This is very far out here, and I would not suggest this on your first attempt. I would suggest waiting for an asteroid to get closer. And when I say closer, I have actually seen asteroids upwards, including this E size, the huge size asteroids, fly between the Moon and Kerbin. So you can get them fairly close. You can get them very, 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 very close. This one just happened to be the first asteroid I found, so this is the one we're going for. But this is the type of orbit that you want. You want a very, very wide orbit. You want an orbit that gets your speed roughly close to that of the target in question. And allows you to intercept. Now, as you can see, our closest intercept is going to be 177 kilometers away. Okay, that's over 150 kilometers away. And that's standard. That's standard. Now, if that were a planet, that would be awesome. But since asteroids have no SOI, 177 kilometers away is not good, but that is standard when it comes to intercepting asteroids because there is no SOI. You want to get as close as possible, but you're not going to be 100% right on the money. You are going to get within 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers. If you can get a good enough orbit to get within 500 meters or so of an asteroid, you have done exceptionally well, and you should take massive screenshots of that. But for the most part, around 100 kilometers or so is fine. And you do have to do some odd orbital maneuvers once you get to the asteroid in question. But if anyone's ever landed on Gilly, you've had some practice on this, where basically you have to burn towards the asteroid. Something you never really do around any other planetary body or anything else, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to dock with the asteroid. And to do that, you have to burn towards it. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, of course, that's going to take a little while since it is 176 kilometers away. But I will do that off camera, and then I will show you guys some of the cool stuff that you can do with asteroids as soon as we can get ourselves attached to one. And of course I will show that to you as well. But this is just a demonstration of the type of orbit you'd normally be looking at when it comes to, at least for me, normally be looking at when it comes to intercepting an asteroid. I'm sure there are people out there who know a much better way of intercepting an asteroid, but this is how I do it. This is how I'm showing you how I do it. So I'll see you guys when we're closer to the asteroid and ready to connect and get everything rocking and rolling. So I'll see you guys there. Alright everybody, there it is, and as you can see, here is also our ship, whose engine is still running. We have ourselves an ion-powered vessel. That's right, an ion-powered vessel. And the reason why I chose an ion-powered vessel is because they work. They work really, 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 really well. Because, as I showed you in the VAB, they now have a maximum thrust of 2.0. And as you can see, that really does work. Now, how much fuel it takes versus how much energy it takes, I don't know if that's changed. I never really paid that close attention to ion engines initially. But as you can see, we are running this one based on just these two solar panels here. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way again. And we also have a very nice SAS unit on here, which is really good. So again, not something you'd normally do with a planet, something that you would normally do, or like an asteroid or a rock. So this is something you normally do with a spaceship, which is of course just thrusting towards it. That's what you do. Now normally I'd use RCS, and I did bring some monopropellant with us, but I forgot to put on the RCS thrusters. So we are going to have to do this old school using the engine to aim us. It's not as hard as it sounds. Well, it's not as hard as it sounds with the claw, because the claw can attach to any part it can connect to. It's a little bit harder if you were trying to dock two docking ports together. So we do have that as an inference on our side. Now the thing is since we are going just as fast as this asteroid is going, the problem that we come up with is the fact that we are going to leave Kerbals SOI in a few days, in about a day. So we have about a day to grab hold of this guy and bring him into what could be considered an orbit. Once it's in orbit, we can do whatever we want with it. Alright, so we're coming up on 200 meters. And this is fast forward to time, of course, just to make sure that we can get there. And there's our rock. There it is, right there. That is a Class A, tiny asteroid, very, 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 very small, probably about the size of a Mark III command pod or similar, about a 3-man Kerbal command pod. Now here's where the fun part starts. We need to dock with this thing using the claw. Now to use the claw, what we can do, or what we're going to do, is we just need to open it. And we right click and we say control from here, that's helpful. And then right click and hit ARM. Now it's ARM, so you know ARM is into arm it. It is not a launch claw, just so you guys know. It is not a launch claw. You do not launch it at your target. This is how it is. This is how it looks, and it just does. Now we're also going to turn on some lights. Now as you can see, the lights are not white. The lights are not white. I forgot to show this to you guys in the VAB, so I decided to show it to you out here. The lights can be altered. They now have red, green, blue RGB properties, which can be altered to adjust whatever kind of light is coming out of them. Now as you can see, it shows white, but they do come out as purple because I chose purple as a nice light. Now that works really, really well, if only because you can now use them for things other than, you know, if you're aiming at a planet or something like that, you now no longer have to be like, okay, where's my light, where's my light, where's my light? And then suddenly, boom, your light appears and like, oh, now it's bright enough I can see it, I'm going to crash. Now you can have lights that are any color. You can have them orange, you can have them green, blue, yellow, purple, pink, doesn't matter. If you can adjust the RGB accordingly, you can have them to be whatever color you want. So in this case, we're going to go with purple. I don't know how strong these are exactly, but hopefully they're strong enough. Now, because the asteroid is a little bit, well, it's bumpy. Our asteroid is bumpy. Yeah, so now you can see the purple. You can see the purple on the asteroid, so now we can see how we're going to attach, or where we're going to attach, or at least how close we are. Let's go ahead and back it up. And we're just going to go ahead and ram it. That's all you have to do. You just do a little ram. And blunk, and we're attached. That's how you dock. Now we have just attached ourselves to an asteroid. Awesome. Now the problem is we've just attached our ship to an object that has its own center of mass, which means, and we did not, there's no way we connected center of mass right off the bat. So because of that, the ARM comes with a very, very, very interesting device. And what you can do is if you right click on the asteroid, you can rename it for one, but we're not going to do that. What you can do is you could target center of mass. So if you say target center of mass, there's our center of mass. Now the center of mass, we're very close to the center of mass, but it's just off far enough to cause some massive issues. So what we're going to do is you right click here on the ARM, on the claw, and you have free pivot mode. Now you have to be very careful with free pivot mode, but what that does is it allows you to do this. This is much easier with a smaller ship than with a bigger one, but if you do this, you can do that and you can aim it right down the center, lock pivot, and now our engine thrust, will be directly along the center of mass of the asteroid. And since our rocket was originally center of mass stable anyway, what that means is we now no longer have to worry about throttling up and having the engine flip us out, or having the asteroid flip out, or anything like that. So what we can do is we can go ahead and turn around. So there's our orbit. And we don't want to increase our orbital speed. We're going too fast as it is. We want to spin our asteroid around, and we want to slow our orbit down. And to do that, we just do this. Now, as you can see, we're able to move this asteroid. And if we look, the SAS unit should hold us stable in place without having to fight very much. And there we go. So now our orbit's slowing down. Now it's going to take a little while for our orbit to slow down because this is an ion engine, but as you can see with a tiny asteroid like this, you can in fact slow down an asteroid using an ion engine. Ion engines are now useful, yay! And I'm sure if you were to stack a few of them together, say on some kind of build platform where you have 4 or 5 or 6 of them stacked up, maybe with a mod, or maybe with stock parts, or maybe however you want to do it, you can then use ion engines for something even bigger. You no longer have to rely on the conventional engines, you can now use ion engines. But I really wanted to show you guys that you can do this with an ion engine, so that's what I brought out here. I will say that I initially used infinite fuel to get it out here because I'm still not sure what the fuel requirements are to get a rocket out here, but I'm pretty sure with as high up as this is, and with the few burns I had to do to get us into the correct area, it's pretty high. And so for that I did use infinite fuel. But we are not using infinite fuel now, so as you can see our xenon gas is burning. We have 3,000 units of xenon gas, and then our electric charge isn't going anywhere because just these 2 solar panels in Kerbal orbit are enough to keep us running. With that big purple, look at that big purple lights on there. It's totally awesome. Alright, so since this is going to take a little while from my perspective, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here, but then I will show you guys, once we get into orbit and everything else, I will show you guys what you can do with these asteroids, because it's fairly fun to do stuff with these asteroids, and I'll show you a couple of things that you can do with them, because a lot of people have been, curious, and they've been asking, hey, what can you do with these? And let's show you what you can do with these. So I will see you guys most likely around Kerbal orbit. Probably an equatorial orbit if we can get that far, but I'll see you guys around in Kerbal orbit, and we'll see what we can do with those little asteroids. Yeah, so I'll see you guys there. Alright everybody, as you can see we have our asteroid KFL 438 in orbit around Kerbin. It's about 150 by 100. We have brought up a makeshift docking pod here, which we will open our docking port. There we go. So we brought up a nice little ship here. We have Bill, Jeb, and Bob, who have volunteered, of course, to come up here and demonstrate some of the things that... Now, I know I said things that you can do with the asteroids, but honestly, I do want to show you some of the things you can't do with the asteroids. And the reason for that is because there are a few things that I'm sure that all of you want to try to do that you cannot, and I don't, well, currently cannot, and I don't want to have you guys wasting your time trying to do stuff you can't do, only to be frustrated after having gotten an asteroid out here. So, because of that, what we're going to do is we're going to attempt very, very, very gently to dock with this little guy. And then I will demonstrate some of the things that you can and can't do. Some of the ideas that you can have. Because some of the people who have, of course, tested the game have had some really interesting ideas for what you can do. And so because of that, I just want to show you guys some of the things you can do, or may be able to do. So let's go ahead and get nice and close. Now we're not in chase cam, of course, because there's no real need to be. Again, you don't have to dock to any one part of the asteroid. All you have to do is connect, and that's what we're going to do now. And thunk, now we're connected. So, say for instance, now this is a tiny asteroid. This is the smallest one that you can get. So say for instance that you have a larger asteroid, say a huge asteroid, the size of E asteroid. Now if we were to do this properly, what you could have is you could have a space station. You could build a space station around an asteroid. So if we were to attach, say, another part, another ship, another one of these over here, you can transfer components between the two because, like transfer fuel and energy and monopropellant, whatever else you want between the two, because this is considered part of this ship now. And it falls under all the rules and regulations of that ship, meaning that if you have parts and pieces stuck to a rock that is in the hull of, or the center, the core, whatever you want it to be, of a space station, the space station works just as normal. Additionally, there are some things that you may want to try that you cannot do right now. One of those things is science. Now, we are not in career mode. We are in sandbox, so this isn't going to work anyway. But what you can do is you can say log gravity data. Now, as you can see, gravity scanned from space just above Kerbin shores. What that means is that the asteroids do not have biomes. They only have, they're just ship parts. Remember, they're just considered ship parts. We log temperature data while in space near Kerbin. So the asteroids currently do not have any kind of biome data. There's no way to say that this asteroid is made up of this, or it contains this, or it has this much gravity, or anything like that. I do believe they may be bringing that in the future. That's something they may bring to the game in the future, but for now that is not something that they have. I don't know why our speed to target is accelerating like that. That's really interesting. Might be a bug. That might be a bug. Our speed to target has been slowly accelerating. I have no idea why. Okay, well, we'll ignore that. We'll ignore that. I hadn't even noticed that, so that may be a bug. Additionally, let's go ahead and have Jebediah EVA. So Jebediah is going to get out here. He's going to let go and RCS up. Now, a lot of you may, of course, as I said, this is a tiny asteroid, but when you have the bigger asteroids, a lot of you may think to yourself, oh, we can land on an asteroid and plant a flag, right? No, unfortunately, again, one of the many things that you cannot do on an asteroid is plant a flag. You can bump an asteroid. You can try to land on it, but since asteroids do not have gravity, they are not considered planetary bodies. There's no way to land, and if there's no way to land, there's no way to plant a flag. So, of course, right now you cannot plant a flag. Again, might be something that they add in the future. Apparently we can take a sample of the asteroid, though. That's interesting. Sample from asteroid KFL 438 while in space near Kerbin. It doesn't feel like this. Okay, so apparently if the minimum amount that you can do... so there is a little bit of science you can do. I was not aware of this. There's a little bit of science you can do where you can grab a sample of the asteroid and get some science off of it. Now, the only thing we know about this is its current location. So apparently you can grab a sample in multiple locations. So we could do this in space near Kerbin, in space high over Kerbin, and around the sun, so on and so forth. I don't know if this information goes from asteroid to asteroid. I have not tried this before. I have not played career mode for this, but apparently asteroids are worth science in this regards anyway. So you can take surface samples, but you cannot land on, nor plant a flag on, nor can you take scientific samples from it. Now, the first time I ever tried that was with a probe. I attached a probe to a tiny asteroid and tried to take scientific data around the sun, and all I got was data around the sun. So it doesn't matter whether Kerbals are present or not, but apparently you can at least, at minimum, take a surface sample, which is really nice. Now, that is what you can do with asteroids. You can do other things. You can land these. You can land them on the planet. If I wanted to take this down and land it on Kerbin, you can. You can land them on the moon. You can put them in orbit around anything you want. You can't have them orbit each other, of course, but you can have them orbit other planets. If you want Duna to have 1,000 different moons, you can put them all around Duna. If you wanted to build a space relay where you use remote tech or other mods like that that require stationary objects in space, and you wanted to do that, you could do that with these. You could do that with asteroids, especially if you use stock remote tech, where each object that attaches or connects to a satellite has to be point to point, and so you need multiple dishes. You can like stick like porcupine dishes all over this thing. So it's very interesting, very fun. The biggest challenge, of course, is getting to the asteroid and then getting it back down to Kerbin. Now, the tiny ones, like I said, are hard to intercept but easy to move. Well, the big ones are slightly easier to intercept and harder to move. So you can check whatever challenge you want. So that is, for the most part, the A.R.M update. There are a few little things in the background. There's stronger support for rockets. The joints and everything are set up more strongly so that the rockets don't wobble quite so much. Lots of optimization in the background. One of the biggest things is that now you can quick save. You can quick save anywhere. Now, what I say by that is autosave only works when you're safe. It doesn't autosave when you're falling through the atmosphere. It doesn't autosave when you're about to crash, things like that. But let's go ahead and disable our engine. So we're going to shut down our engine. Now, normally you could not quick save at throttle up. That's not what I wanted. We just changed our orbit. Now, normally you could not save at throttle up, but we're going to throttle up. And then we're going to hit F5, and if you look, quick saving. Now, the game will never auto-save as long as I'm throttled up, but I can quick save anytime I want to. Now, that's both a blessing and a curse, and the reason for that is that now you can quick save anytime you want to, but that includes 2 seconds before you crash into a mountain. Or with your engines throttled up and you come back later and you stage and then you shoot yourself off into space. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful, but now you can quick save in a lot more situations than you could previously. You still can't time accelerate under when your throttle's up, except for physical time acceleration and things like that. But now you can quick save more often and in more uncommon places than previously. So it's really, 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 really awesome. But I could show you more stuff to do with asteroids, I suppose, all the different things you can do with the asteroids. We could attach more stuff to this or not, but mostly I just wanted to show you some of the added bits and pieces that they added to the game that make it really interesting. Absolutely, when it comes out, explore, get the parts, things like that. You know, explore, play with the parts, play with the clamps, figure out what you want to do with the asteroids, do all sorts of fun stuff with the asteroids, or don't do anything with the asteroids. Totally up to you. But that is the A.R.M expansion for Kerbal Space Program, or what's called 0.23.5. And so once again, I would like to thank you all very much for joining me for Kilobyte Short on this Let's Learn with Kerbal Space Program, and I will see you guys next video.